where across the UK and southwesterly breeze will keep it quite mild overnight tonight. So notice a little bit of light rain and drizzle for western parts of England and Wales, but the main area of rain is further north and west. It really will be pretty miserable through the morning across the west of Scotland in particular, through the central lowlands, gust of wind getting up to 50, 60 miles an hour, and quite a bit of rain to go with that. And pretty wet and quite windy too for Northern Ireland. So not particularly pleasant to start the day in the north and west of the UK. Head a little bit further south, and yes, there's a fair bit of cloud around across England and Wales. To the east of Pennines, something a little bit brighter to start the day. A little bit of rain still to be found across some western parts of England and Wales, and it is quite breezy. Cloudy, but essentially dry through much of the Midlands and down towards the southeastern corner. And in the southeast, you might even see a little bit of morning sunshine. But the main band of rain is further north and west. It is on the move. It'll slowly pull away from Scotland and Northern Ireland. And as it does so, we start to introduce that cooler, fresher air with some fairly blustery showers, which will turn quite wintry up over the hills. So the colder air is moving in. Temperatures struggling to get into double figures here. But down towards the southeastern corner, still something relatively mild at 14 or 15 degrees. But that relatively mild air doesn't stick around for too long. Thursday night, it's pretty much gone. The cold air takes over to take us into the end of the week. So notably, that bit colder, fresher through the day on Friday. Temperatures for most of us struggling to 8 or 9 degrees. Might just about break the double figure mark in the southeastern corner. It's a day of sunny spells and showers. Some of those showers quite wintry over the hills, and that cold feel takes us on into the weekend. Further wintry showers around, and gardeners take note. Some frosty nights in the forecast.
Jake, thank you very much. And a reminder of our main story. The Chancellor says his fifth budget is for makers, doers and savers. Labour dismissed it as a budget for the privileged. That's all from the BBC's News at 6, so it's goodbye from me, and on BBC One we can now join the BBC's news teams where you are.
Tonight on BBC London News, we look at the winners and losers of the Chancellor's budget.
We're going to build new homes in Barking Riverside, regenerate Brent Cross and build the first new garden city in almost 100 years at Ebbsfleet.
The promise to kickstart house building in East London, but criticism that there's no funding yet for a new rail link to encourage people to move there.
The site currently is serviced by a couple of bus services. We need that rail link that provide access to Barking Station and further afield in East London and to central London.
London's air ambulance is to get £1 million. It'll help them get another one of these up in our skies. They reckon they'll assist an extra 400 Londoners every year.
Mayor Boris Johnson gives us his reaction to the budget.
I say it absolutely sincerely. I think it's a really good budget for London.
Also tonight, a cyclist who suffered brain damage after hitting a pothole wins his claim for compensation at the High Court. Plus, leaping onto the London stage, the world's top male ballet dancers come together for a special performance. A very good evening to you. It's one of the single biggest issues facing London, a lack of affordable homes. Well, today, the Chancellor, George Osborne, promised government money to ease the housing crisis. He said Barking Riverside would be one of 3 areas to benefit, with scope to build some 11,000 new homes. But there's disappointment that there was no money forthcoming for a new rail link to the area. Critics claim that without it, no one will want to move there. We'll be hearing from the Mayor in just a moment and getting reaction to today's budget announcements. First, this report from our political editor, Tim Donovan.
It's flat and it's large and it's available, hugging the Thames in East London. There's planning permission for 11,000 homes at the Barking Riverside site. So far, a few hundred have been built, a few hundred more are in the pipeline, but the process has been stalling. For those who live here already, the promise was for facilities and transport links to follow.
There isn't that much infrastructure available for the school, for the community purposes, for the transport links. If you see the buses going in and out at the rush hour, they're all full. And we're trying to put this place on a map, and the people would move over here. We will have a bigger, stronger community, and we especially need like a station.
What she and others want is trains overground on a new rail link from Barking to a new station near their homes. So what did the Chancellor indicate today? Well, in the Commons there was a mention.
In the southeast, where the pressure is greatest, we're going to build new homes in Barking Riverside.
The detail of the budget document said the Chancellor would work with the Mayor to develop proposals. That's not enough, says the local council.
Very disappointed that there's no guarantee and commitment to the investment of £180 million to deliver the extension of the Barking London Overground Line to Barking Riverside. In terms of looking at it, well, that was a similar position back in the autumn statement, and we would have hoped both the Chancellor and the Treasury had looked at the options now, had analysed and assessed the business case and delivered on £180 million, because here we have a ready-made solution.
Unlocking the potential of this place has become a priority for London's Mayor. The Greater London Authority jointly owns the land.
To the Mayor's critics, his is belated recognition of this area's importance. They say he's wasted a few years. And they point out that Ken Livingstone before him had wanted to extend the Docklands Light Railway out here, have 3 new stations. But Boris Johnson scrapped those plans.
The DLR option was too expensive, the Mayor said. Some put it at £750 million, compared to £180 million for his favoured alternative. City Hall sources suggest an agreement between government and Mayor is now close. Exactly who pays what needs to be ironed out, and it should be sorted by the autumn. Here they'll only believe that when they see it. Tim Donovan, BBC London News.
Well, London's Mayor welcomed today's budget. Speaking to our political correspondent, Carl Mercer, Boris Johnson said it would help London build the homes it needs.
Not only would I say it absolutely sincerely, I think it's a really good budget for London. And the big problem we've got in the city is obviously building more affordable homes, building them fast, getting all the developments going on the brownfield sites. So we've been lobbying now for 3-4 years for the Barking Riverside Overground extension. Bingo, we're getting that. That's 13,000, 15,000 homes maybe. Brent Cross, another big push forward there.
That's interesting. You say you're getting that, but for something called a budget, there is remarkably little budget in this. There is no money announced for London today, is there?
Actually, there will be, and there is. And it's the right question to ask, because the way...
Is there a right answer?
Yes.
How much money has been committed to London today for these schemes that you say are so important?
It will about 350, thick end of £500 million, I suppose. I mean, a lot of money.
They've not actually committed any money, have they? What they've said is they will work with the Mayor, John Barnett. They will work with you. You've got to go away and come up with some figures and go back to them, and then they might give you the money.
Well, let me explain how it works, okay? They don't want to write a gigantic cheque immediately. You've got to go to them and say, listen, this is fantastic. And then they say, rubbish. This is and then you go back to them again and you say, this really is fantastic. And they say, all right.
So as of today, they haven't actually written any cheques for London on those 2 schemes that you say, okay, you've got to go back to them again in the autumn.
Well, what I can tell you is those schemes will go ahead.
On Barking, the previous Mayor, Mr Livingstone, had an idea as well, didn't he, about regenerating Barking Riverside. He wanted to extend the Docklands Light Railway to that area. It was a scheme you scrapped. So are you something of a late convert to the benefits?
Because the trouble with that scheme, the DLR scheme, Carl, was that cost about 700 or 800 million, which was a lot. And in the end, TfL looked at it and they said, oh no, we're doing the wrong thing. What we need to do is extend the overground and take that down to the river, and there you've got your station.
Would you like to see the Treasury moving more quickly? Because
would I like to see the Treasury moving more quickly? Well, you know, you ask anybody who's engaged in trying to get infrastructure done in this country, that of course we all would, but they've got to be vigilant and they've got to be sceptical, and you've got to push them. I would like, obviously, to see
Mr Osborne's holding up that crucial development for London, is he?
No, he's come through today with some very important commitments to infrastructure. Crossrail could have died.
When then is Mr Osborne going to sign that cheque for either Brent Cross or Barking? When do you expect those?
He will sign the cheque as soon as we are actually in a position reasonably to spend the money. So from now on, what we've got to do is we've got to get the planning, we've got to get the Transport and Works Act in the next couple of years. Before I evaporate from this wonderful office, we'll get it done. We'll start it.
The Mayor speaking a little earlier to our political correspondent, Carl Mercer. Well, London's Air Ambulance was one of today's budget winners. The service, which relies on charitable donations, will receive £1 million in government funding to help operate a second helicopter. The Chancellor also announced that the service, like others across the country, will be exempt from paying VAT on fuel. Nick Beake has the details.
For 25 years now, it's been looking over us, providing life-saving care in the most perilous of situations. Last year, 1,800 people, victims of crime, road crashes and other accidents, were given specialist emergency treatment before they even arrived at hospital. Now, with £1 million from the government, London will get a second air ambulance.
We're absolutely thrilled today on behalf of this organisation. I think it's an organisation that deserves this extra funding, but mostly it's about the people of London and the patients that we look after. We think we can reach another 400 people that are critically ill through the helicopter the most effective way in daylight hours with the funding that we've received today.
This one helicopter, based here on the roof of the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel, serves 10 million people. The second ambulance will provide cover during maintenance, although both could be deployed if there were a major incident. This is a charity and relies heavily on donations, and the money only goes so far, so today's news is significant.
Well, the evenings, of course, are getting longer now, but in previous summers, this helicopter hasn't been able to run beyond about 7 o'clock in the evening. But with extra funding, they hope that they can recruit more pilots, and that means that there'll be a medic in the sky until dusk in future summers.
At the moment, when the helicopter can't go up, the teams go out in cars. But now, more people will get critical care more quickly.
The aircraft provides the most effective means of getting us being an advanced trauma doctor and an advanced paramedic to the scene of an accident to look after people and effectively take the hospital to them and bring the intensive care to them.
This is a one-off gift from the Chancellor's Red Box. In the future, the charity will have to generate £6 million a year to keep both air ambulances in the sky. Nick Beake, BBC London News, on the helipad at the Royal London Hospital.
Let's pick up on some of what we've heard today with our political editor, Tim Donovan, who joins me now. Many people would have been looking for a clear indication of investment in new housing. Did we get that?
Well, what we got was a declaration of intent, didn't we? But Carl successfully teased out the fact that, the limitations to what we heard today and all the key stuff, which is, working out the details of this, working out how much a project costs, what the benefits are going to be, and getting agreement, key thing, agreement between the Chancellor and the Mayor of London. There is a lot to do, and not just in Barking. Brent Cross, we're no clearer tonight about what's happening to that development. Actually, at the moment anyway, it's being considered by Eric Pickles, the Secretary of State, to decide whether it's a goer in its present scale. There was some suggestion we might get a new station by Brent Cross. No detail of that either today. And on one other area, which was a kind of new fund, if you like, to regenerate estates. It was mentioned, for instance, that the old estate, the Aylesbury, famous big estate in Southwark, might be the beneficiary of a new £150 million fund. Well, Southwark, the local council, say, well, all right, but show us the detail on that too. And can we remind you that just 2 or 3 years ago, we had a scheme to regenerate that estate, which was going to give us £180 million.
And what about other initiatives, such as tackling empty properties, for example?
Well, there was one, quite eye-catching announcement, which is as of, midnight tonight, and we know just how much that kind of sense of, foreign investors buying up our flats, leaving them empty has become a controversial issue. Any property over £500,000 owned by a company, people who try and avoid paying kind of tax stamp duty through that, if that is found, they will have to pay 15% of this kind of new tax, and that's expected potentially, that is specifically for properties that are left empty.
OK, Tim, for now, thanks very much indeed. Our political editor, Tim Donovan. And there's more analysis and reaction to today's announcements on the BBC's website, the address bbc.co.uk/budget. Coming up later in the programme, 3 dogs die, another 3 receive treatment after eating poisoned meat in a London park. Yesterday, we heard politicians say they were going to get tougher on stopping the practice of female genital mutilation, or FGM. Well, today we can reveal how widespread the problem is. BBC London has learned that 4,000 women and girls affected by FGM have been treated in hospitals in the capital over the past 5 years. But the total number could be much higher, as Tara Welsh now reports.
Being held down and mutilated at 6 years old has left Isa with more than physical scars.
I can still remember, the shouting. I can still remember the blood coming through. I can still remember the pain.
She's since had surgery, had a successful career as a midwife, and is now setting up a clinic for FGM survivors at Ealing Hospital. And there's clearly a demand. Guy's and St Thomas's alone has treated more than 1,000 patients in the past 5 years. FGM is often inflicted on a child to preserve virginity. She often won't get help until she's married.
Things that we take for granted is a big deal. So depending on the type of FGM, they present with different complications or impact. But what is important to be aware of is that the complications or impact last a lifetime.
Women have been treated here in Parliament's shadow for 2 decades now. So why is this still happening in London?
They do want to welcome everybody, every custom, every culture, and I don't think sometimes it's right to do that because there is some bad habits and bad custom, and there's no place in UK for that.
There's no mandatory training for schools or social workers to spot signs, so this school's come up with its own.
Because we need to safeguard our girls. So we've decided just to go for it, really, and offer opportunities for our parents to actually have a safe forum where these issues can be discussed.
If a girl doesn't have FGM, that can bring shame on a family. Quite often, parents don't want to do this to their child, but they're forced to by their parents. And it's this community pressure that can outweigh the need to abide by the law.
Only people who went to the school, who have educational backgrounds, who knows the law enforcement and the consequences about this problem, will listen to authority. But people who don't have that, they listen to the cleric, they listen to their grandmoms, they listen to their granddads.
The government says it is working hard to protect vulnerable children.
We have 20,000 girls at risk, so the Home Office is counting, looking at prevalence, doing a community programme. The Health Service is beginning to code so we know what happens in the Health Service in FGM. Ministry of Justice is looking at laws. All of us are working together to move this forward, and most importantly working with those in the community who are leading this charge.
Women like Isa are determined to change things. The clinic will be named Hope because she says she has to believe this practice will end in her lifetime. Tara Welsh, BBC London News.
Well, if you or anyone you know has been affected by any of the issues in Tara's report, you can find out more details, including information on helplines, on our website at the usual address that you can see there. A 42-year-old woman has died after being stabbed in Tottenham this afternoon. A man has been arrested and is being questioned by police. Let's go now to the scene and to our reporter Helen Drew. Helen, what more are you hearing?
Well, the crime scene behind me here is Bruce Grove in Tottenham, and it was here that police were called at just before 1 o'clock this afternoon. The 42-year-old woman was taken by ambulance to a hospital in central London where she was pronounced dead. The 46-year-old man was arrested at the scene. He was subsequently taken to a police station in North London where he remains in custody. Now, forensics have been here all afternoon. They were here when we arrived, quite a few of them, and they're only just starting to collect up their things now as we're losing the light. An investigation has been launched and detectives are asking for any witnesses to come forward. What they don't yet know is whether the suspect and the attacker knew each other.
And what are local people there saying to you tonight?
As you'd expect, Riz, they're all incredibly shocked about this. It happened in broad daylight, and it would seem from what people have been telling me that there were quite a few people walking around the streets as it happened. I spoke to one man who came out of a local shop that's just 20 metres away on the corner. He came out just after it had happened and said he saw the man standing over the woman's body. He said that man rolled up a cigarette and just stood there and waited until the police came to arrest him.
OK, Helen from Tottenham, thank you. A cyclist who fractured his skull after hitting a pothole has been awarded nearly £70,000 at the High Court. Alan Curtis took Hertfordshire County Council to court after he went over the handlebars of his bike while swerving to avoid a pothole. The accident left him with hearing and memory problems. Richard Slee has the story.
They spent most of Sunday working on the arm. There's 2 plates in there.
Alan Curtis is still suffering the effects of his accident 4.5 years after it happened. He also has hearing and memory loss, but says if he wasn't wearing his helmet, it could have been much worse.
Must have landed on the left side of my head, and the helmet took the impact there, completely cracked. In fact, there's a whole lump missing from that, but it did its job.
Alan was in training for a charity bike ride when he hit a pothole here on the drive in Rickmansworth. The road surface was repaired a long time ago, but the basis of Alan's claim is that the council failed in its legal obligation to look after the road properly. And at the High Court this afternoon, a judge agreed. In awarding Alan £69,000 in damages, Judge David Pittaway said that the pothole was a Category 1 defect that should have been repaired, and that there was a breach of duty when the road was inspected by council officials just a few months earlier.
I have suffered permanent injuries, and they are a little bit life-changing, and I do think that someone had to be held to account for that. And I think it's appropriate that the council have been found negligent.
Alan's solicitor says this judgment is good news for London cyclists.
This is a case that will make the authorities have to sit up and take notice of the obligations they have under the Highways Act 1980.
In a statement, Hertfordshire County Council said simply that it was disappointed with the judgment. No doubt it'll soon be helping to spend some of the £200 million for pothole repair that was announced in today's budget. Richard Slee, BBC London News.
3 dogs have died and 3 more needed treatment after being poisoned in northwest London. Police are now investigating after the pets became ill soon after being walked in or near parks in Kingsbury in Brent. Emma North has more.
Come on. It's being described as callous, deliberate and cruel. For 2 months now, dogs in Kingsbury have been targeted by someone or some people intent on doing harm.
Fred, sit down, darling. Good boy. Good dogs.
Leslie Hastings was out walking her dogs last Thursday. When they got home, this dog, Maisie, fell ill rapidly. She was taken to the vets and was treated straight away, but what Leslie didn't realise was back at home, another dog, Toby, had been poisoned and he was dying.
We'd only been gone about half an hour, it was that quick. And when we got back from the vets, I'd found Toby dead at home. I mean, if a dog dies of old age, and you expect that to happen, but a relatively young dog, a 6-year-old dog, to die like that, and what I gather too, that he must have suffered terribly.
The poison's being laid in places around Kingsbury that are known for dog walking.
One of our clients brought in some of the poison which her dog ingested, pieces of chicken wrapped up with this blue putty-like material. We're still waiting for confirmation of exactly what it is at this stage, but from the signs that we're seeing, we are suspicious of a type of pesticide called organophosphate.
One of the luckier ones was Bella. After a walk last week, the symptoms came on very quickly.
She started shaking quite violently and was licking her lips a lot, and we knew immediately something was wrong. She tried to walk to her bed, and I can only describe her as seeming as if she was drunk, and she didn't make it to the bed.
She spent the night in intensive care, during which time her owners saw another dog being carried out in a bag. The local community is close here, so the warnings are travelling quickly, but with still no clue as to who is doing this, dog walkers are having to change their habits. From now on, Bella will be on a lead and will wear a muzzle. It's a small compromise for keeping her healthy. Emma North, BBC London News.
Now, 5 of the world's best male ballet dancers will be performing together for the first time on the London stage tonight. They say they're pleased the show has come to the capital because it's a city that celebrates dance. Our arts correspondent Brenda Manis caught up with the stars at rehearsals.
The only time a ballerina appears on stage in this new show is for Roland Petit's tragic Le Jeune Homme et la Mort. For this is Kings of the Dance, a celebration of the talents of the reigning male stars of ballet.
Do you often feel overshadowed by your female counterparts?
Well, of course, in some ballet it can happen because the leading ballerina, like in Beauty or Giselle, Swan Lake has the main role, and we are most of the time partnering her. So this is a special occasion to show our capability and our talent.
These virtuoso performers are all box office draws in their own right. It's been said that a single seat in the VIP stalls for Russian star Ivan Vasiliev's Nutcracker performance at the Bolshoi Ballet cost over £1,000 and saw the likes of Roman Abramovich in the audience. They follow in the footsteps of awe-inspiring performers like Nureyev and Baryshnikov.
We are a product of the guys that came before us, you know, and they set path for us. And we honor that very much so. I think that the main key about the show also is that we get to do different ballets that we don't always get to do with our own companies, and like that we learn so much from one another, and that's the perfect way to grow.
The show made its debut in 2006 in New York with a different lineup of dancers. This famous five will perform 7 pieces that will demonstrate their artistry and physical prowess.
Is it a great experience to have you all together, or is there a competitive element amongst you all?
Competitive.
I don't know.
I'm joking.
No,
No, we're friends.
Yeah, we're all friends, and we're all trained in such different ways. We're so excited to bring the show to London. There's a lot of dance that comes through here, and it was about time, I think, that Kings of the Dance would come to London.
And they'll be at the London Coliseum until the 22nd of March. Brenda Imanis, BBC London News.
OK, time for a check on the weather with Wendy. And fair to say today wasn't quite what we expected.
That's very fair of you as well to say it so sweetly. But yes, you noticed it wasn't quite as sunny as we promised. This was the satellite picture. Clear skies now, but there was a lot of high cloud and it had a certain thickness to it as well that meant it was bright rather than sunny throughout the day. And it was only later on in the afternoon that we got to 17 degrees once the skies began to clear. So yes, it didn't really hit the 19s and 20s we thought it might. Now, there is a change towards the end of the week. We won't be hitting 17 even. Rain Thursday night will usher in something colder towards the end of the week, and it's not completely bonkers that you will see a snowflake or two on Saturday morning or Sunday morning. It will take a heavy shower, it will take some high ground, but it's not completely out of the question. So for the time being, it is remaining mild. We do, as I say, have a bit of clear sky out there at the moment, but we will see some more cloud pushing in as the night goes on. And once again, we still have that breeze blowing. It's coming in still from a southwesterly direction, and so it will be a fairly mild night. We don't have to worry about frosts at the moment. That's going to be a weekend concern though. Temperatures tonight, 6-7 degrees, something like that. So we start the day again with a fair amount of cloud. It looks like it's going to thin and break as we go through the morning for some sunny spells to get through, and so it will start to feel quite nice and warm, I think, out of the breeze again. 14-15 degrees is a possibility, but that breeze will be fairly strong throughout the day and increasing in strength, in fact. And then towards the end of the day we will start to see some rain, the first we've seen really for quite some time, and it looks like we'll get 5 to 10 millimetres, something like that, edging into London around about 6 o'clock. Now once that's through, it is going to be a case that we'll have some much cooler air coming in for Friday, so we lose the mid to high teens, we get the colder air in, and so for the weekend, yes, we might have something wintry in nature. Not for everyone, I'm sure, but it's a possibility.
Did you really say a snowflake?
I know.
Wendy, thank you. A quick reminder of the headlines. The Chancellor has delivered his 5th budget to the House of Commons. George Osborne's announced significant changes to tax rules for pension pots, a new bigger tax-free ISA and measures to try and boost British exports. And for the capital, there's £1 million for a second London air ambulance and more money for house building in Brent Cross and Barking Riverside. But critics claim it will do little to solve the capital's housing crisis. And police investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann are hunting a serial sex attacker who's believed to have broken into 12 holiday properties